My stepdaughter gave my husband a dartboard with my face as the bullseye. He laughed and said he'd hang it in the garage. I left for 3 weeks and let everything fall apart. I married my husband Glenn when his daughter Tammy was 14. I knew from the start that blending a family wouldn't be easy. Tammy's mom had left when she was 8, and Glenn raised her alone for 6 years before I came along. She was his whole world, and I respected that. I never tried to replace her mother. I never tried to discipline her or tell her what to do. I just wanted to be someone she could trust, and maybe even like eventually. I thought if I gave her enough time and space, she'd warm up to me. That was 5 years ago. Tammy is 19 now, and she hates me more than ever. From the very beginning, Tammy made it clear I wasn't welcome. She ignored me at dinner. She rolled her eyes whenever I spoke. She told Glenn I was trying too hard and it was embarrassing. Glenn always said she just needed time to adjust. When Tammy accidentally broke my grandmother's vase and didn't apologize, Glenn said she was going through a lot. When Tammy told her friends I was a gold digger even though I made more money than Glenn, he said teenagers exaggerate. When Tammy refused to come to our wedding and Glenn almost postponed it to make her happy, I should have seen the pattern. But I loved him and I thought things would get better. They didn't. After we got married, I moved into their house. I offered to help redecorate and Tammy threw a fit about me erasing her childhood home. I offered to drive her to school and she said she'd rather walk 3 miles in the rain. I offered to help with college applications and she told Glenn I was overstepping. Everything I did was wrong. Everything I didn't do was also wrong. Glenn's solution was always for me to try harder and give her more grace. I spent 5 years bending over backward for a girl who wanted me gone. I cooked her favorite meals and she said she wasn't hungry. I bought her birthday gifts and she left them unopened in the hall. I stayed out of her way when her friends came over and she complained I was being weird and antisocial. Glenn never once told her to be respectful. He never once stood up for me when she was cruel. He just kept saying she'd come around when she was ready. Last month was Glenn's 50th birthday. Tammy came home from college for the weekend to celebrate. She made a big deal about having the perfect gift for him. She wrapped it herself and put a bow on top and wouldn't let anyone see it until the party. Glenn invited his siblings and some friends from work. I made all the food and decorated the whole house. Tammy didn't help with any of it, but she walked around acting like she planned the whole thing. When it was time for presents, Tammy went first. She handed Glenn this big flat box and told him she'd been working on it for months. He opened it and pulled out a custom dartboard. The bullseye was my face, not a cartoon or a joke drawing, an actual photo of me printed right in the center with the dart rings around it. Tammy laughed and said now he could finally let out his frustration. Some of Glenn's coworkers looked uncomfortable. His sister put her hand over her mouth. Glenn just stared at it for a second and then laughed. He told Tammy she was terrible and gave her a hug. He said he'd hang it in the garage. I stood there holding a tray of appetizers I'd spent 4 hours making. Nobody said anything to me. Nobody asked if I was okay. Glenn's sister came over later and whispered that Tammy was just being young and I shouldn't take it personally. I smiled and said of course. That night I made a decision. I was done trying. The next morning I told Glenn I needed to visit my sister for a few weeks. He asked if everything was okay and I said I just needed a break. He didn't push because he never pushed when it came to my feelings. I drove to my sister's house and stayed for 3 weeks. I didn't cook, I didn't clean, I didn't manage anyone's schedule or feelings. I just existed. While I was gone, I let everything I normally handled fall apart. I was the one who paid the bills on time. I was the one who scheduled Glenn's doctor appointments. I was the one who remembered his mom's birthday and sent flowers from both of us. I was the one who kept the house running. When I stopped, everything stopped. Glenn called me after a week saying the electricity got shut off because he forgot to pay it. He called again saying he missed his dentist appointment and had to pay a cancellation fee. He called a third time saying Tammy was upset because I wasn't there to take her to get her car fixed before she drove back to campus. I told him I was busy and he could figure it out. By the time I came home, Glenn looked exhausted. The house was a mess. There was a stack of unopened mail on the counter. He asked why I didn't remind him about the bills before I left. I told him I wasn't his secretary. He asked why I was being cold. I told him I spent 5 years being warm and it got me a dartboard with my face on it and a husband who laughed about it. I told him I was done being the only person who cared about this family working. I told him either Tammy apologized and he started standing up for me or I was leaving. Full story on channel, link below.